Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Maximum warp. Punch it. Punch it.
Punch it, Bishop!
Punch it.
Punch that shit!
Let's punch it.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome. This is Punch It, Writing in Star Trek. I'm your co-host, Tristan Riddell, and with me, as always, is...
Charlene Schmidt.
Charlene Schmidt. We have some fascinating content to discuss today, because what we're talking about is short treks, and not what we've seen particularly, but what we'd like to see. And that could be anything from more short treks from Star Trek Discovery, future short treks from Star Trek Picard, or anything in between, or like any of the shows that we know that are coming out, which are vast in number. But it's really just a conversation of what we'd like to see, what we think we might see, and maybe a little bit of what we don't want to see. But before we get into that, we've had some great viewer mail, as we always do. But there's one in particular that we want to talk about because we're kind of riding the wave of the previous episode. And that is about Tom Paris working in other shows. How does he work on TNG? How does he work on TOS? How does he work on Enterprise? How does he work on Deep Space Nine? And a listener wrote us an email.
That's right. So we wanted to just read this on air because we think it's a fairly cool idea. And so Richard Hunston, this is your take on getting Tom Paris on DS9. The Defiant has just been delivered, and they are looking to staff all the stations. Meanwhile, for a few episodes, we've seen a new character, Tom Paris. We know very little about him, except he's a former Starfleet civilian who is a parolee, working his time off on DS9 during the war. The helmsman position is proving a difficult position to fill, so Captain Sisko finds a piloting holosuite program to put his staff to the test, but upon running the program at Quarks, he discovers the program has an impossibly high score at the top of the table from a mysterious player. In true Good Will Hunting style, they track down the player as a lowly civilian technician, Tom Paris. Sisko recognizes Tom's piloting genius and pulls in several favors to have him reinstated as a Starfleet officer. Paris closes the episode by showing that the overpowered Defiant can be tamed, but only by a pilot who knows his hot rods. So we thought that was a cute idea to kind of cement what we were talking about, but then kind of put in a little twist and use Tom Paris to an advantage. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you so much, Rick. This was a lot of fun to read. This is different from the direction we went into, obviously, and that's why you sent it. But it was a lot of fun, and I think it's very interesting. And you mentioned Good Will Hunting. I think it's a mix of Good Will Hunting and the 1980s sci-fi movie The Last Starfighter. It's for those of you who don't know, The Last Starfighter is a movie that takes place on Earth. It starts out on Earth, and there's this arcade game, and a guy who lives in a trailer park, that's pretty much all his means of entertainment is this video game. And it's about flying a ship through space and like trying to get to the end boss and everything like that. And he reaches the highest score imaginable, and everybody thinks he's great. Well, then the next night he's visited by aliens, and he's just like, "Oh my God, like you totally, achieved our training program. No one's ever gotten that high of a score. Would you like to fly with us and be our starfighter?" And so he goes and basically enacts the video game and saves the universe. And it was very cool and very reminiscent of this. And I think that's very much something that Star Trek would do and pay homage to. So thank you very much again, Rick.
Also, it has echoes of Tron, just a little bit.
Oh, well, anytime we can get a little Tron in our lives, I think is beneficial.
I would love to see that second sequel, or the third movie.
Oh, hardcore, yes. I want a Tron Legacy sequel so bad. All right, so how about we start the show? Let's go ahead and get into this groove. Now, since our last episode, a teaser trailer for Star Trek Picard has dropped.
Yeah.
What did you think?
For as little as we learned from this trailer, I still got super stoked, super excited. Oh, it's beautiful. It just makes me giddy inside. It really does get me excited for the series, what it could possibly be doing. I am very intrigued by the idea that this is going to be a more psychological and introspective kind of a show. I think that's fitting for Picard. I think it's a great kind of alternative for those who maybe aren't digging on disco too much. when you just want something to make you think. This might be that show. So for that purpose, and of course, just the fanboy giddiness of, oh my God, more Picard, more Patrick Stewart. Yes, please. This is going to be a good show. That's my thought. What about you?
I think I'd love to piggyback off of what you just said about people who didn't like disco or not digging disco. No judgment, because I think it's definitely something that the fans have been screaming for even before disco came out, where they're like, we want something post-Nemesis. Give us something post-Nemesis. Well, they're finally going to get something post-Nemesis. And not only does it take place after Nemesis, it involves the man who was the lead in Nemesis. And so you can't get much more literal than that. And so for that, I'm the most excited about. But after the trailer, I probably am the same level of excitement and reservations as I was before the trailer. I think one thing, like I had some of my own nitpicks, even just from the teaser, where, and I realize that this is nitpicks, like I'm totally pushing up my nerd glasses here, but I'm like, okay, what's the deal? Like in the teaser poster, you have a TOS style Delta shield.
Oh God, it's about the font.
Oh, no, here's the theory.
Wait.
Yeah,
okay,
here's the
you're
thing.
talking about the Delta. Okay, because a lot of people online were criticizing, you're using the original series font for the logo. Probably is a franchise thing, guys.
I understand that, but I am totally one of those people. Did I complain online? No, because it's not worth complaining about online. But this is our freaking show. This is our freaking show, so I'm going to complain on this venue.
All right, have at it.
Because is this going to ruin the show for me? No. Do I think it's like? Do I think it's something where I'm just like, oh my God, they don't understand what's going on? It's not like they understand Picard. No, I'm not doing that at all. I'm just saying like, oh, why? Wait, why? You know, like where it's just it's you see the TOS font, you see the TOS Delta shield, and then at the very end of the trailer, you hear the first few notes from the TOS theme, and it's like, this is a TNG guy, this is a TNG character, this is a TNG era extension. And I'm like, why not go for that? And I think what you just said is probably what they're going to do, is there's just like, we're going to have the franchise go in so many different directions over the next 10, 20 years that they probably are trying to make this a unified brand. I mean, they just started a new department with some new VP. I can't remember exactly, but it's all about the marketing and branding of Star Trek, internationally. I'm totally summarizing. I'm probably got that wrong, but it was a sign that they are trying to find a cohesive brand while they splinter, because, you have TOS, Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, TNG, Voyager, Discovery, all have vastly different types of branding and fonts and everything like that. They're probably saying like, okay, from here on out, this is what we're going to do. Like in marketing materials, you're going to see this font. You're going to see this Delta shield because that says Star Trek.
Yep, I think that's exactly what it is. As we get such a major expansion of the franchise coming down the pipe, they realize that it is branding. It's, they want that unifying force. They want instant recognition that this is Star Trek, the franchise. And it makes a lot of sense that they are doing this. And I think they've learned from other big franchises, like from the Marvel universe and all of that, just all these things that have, so many things going on at once. They realize that this is a part of it. And I love the fact that people are like, well, why aren't you using the next gen font? What? Well, because of this. It's got to be distinctly Star Trek. And yes, maybe it would be cool if they used some more TNG callbacks, but I think we're going to get plenty of that otherwise. So
we'll be
let's
fine,
just settle
guys.
down. We've seen a minute of footage, okay? The fan base is exhausting sometimes.
Now, I will say that one thing that got me super intrigued is that they immediately threw in some mystery with saying that it was something like, what was it, like 15 years ago or 5 years ago? I can't remember, like a certain number of years ago, 15 years ago, you commanded an armada, like the largest the Starfleet has ever seen or something like that, and saved the world. Again, I've only watched it once, so I might be summarizing wrong.
How did you only watch it once?
I was really
I watched it like
busy
5
last week.
times back to back.
I had to wait an entire day. Like when it was released, I was just like, I'm not going to be able to watch this 60 seconds of footage until like midnight tonight.
That's true. You were so busy last week.
So like I started checking the timeline. I was like, wait, that's a couple years post Nemesis. Okay, so we have no idea what it is. We have no idea what this event was. But once again, Picard saved the day. And so immediately I was just like, I want to know more. Tell me more.
Right. Yeah, a lot of theories right now are talking about how this coincides with the timeline of the destruction of Romulus. Because, yes, that did happen in the prime timeline if you're not paying attention. The whole thing with Nero and whatnot. So there's a possibility of that happening. And yeah, it's like Picard is no longer involved in Starfleet because of some sort of price. What was it? How did he pay some terrible price for what happened here? I cannot wait to learn more. I'm super stoked.
And there was actually, I saw a lot of people comment about how they're like, oh, so they did make him an admiral. Interesting. Like some people were pissed because that's what you do.
Even though Kirk warned him.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people were evoking that quote. And I'm like, oh my God, you mean Picard didn't listen to Kirk? What? But so he became an admiral and then he left Starfleet. So it makes you like, they didn't mention, like if he became an ambassador, then they would have called him ambassador. They wouldn't have called him admiral.
Right.
And so it makes you, a lot of people are just like, wait, I thought he became an ambassador because of this and because of this. And I'm just like, nope. Like everything you mentioned was like STO is not canon. So they don't have to follow that. And also this kind of proves that the Countdown comics, even though they said they were canon, aren't canon anymore because something on screen is going to contradict it. And that's the thing with printed publications is that whenever some marketing agency says, oh yeah, this book, this comic, this whatever is canon, it can and usually always is trumped by whatever is on screen.
Right. Also, it is possible that they are going to find a way to reel in that canon. We just don't know how yet.
Right. I mean, and the thing is that like not having the Countdown comics as canon doesn't trump the Star Trek 09 as being canon because that's on screen. That's there. That's proof.
Right,
We have Prime Spock, and Prime Spock is the one who told us about the destruction of Romulus in the Prime timeline. So that is something they have to deal with.
Yes. So lots of possibilities there. Now that said, you got me wondering now. Do you want any Picard short treks? Do you think they're going to do any Picard short treks?
I think they'd be stupid not to because it's a way to get people to talk about the show and maybe even subscribe to CBS All Access longer in order to do short treks. I mean, so that they have to pay for themselves by the buzz alone and the subscriber base alone. Like now, obviously, I didn't subscribe to CBS All Access during the short treks. I'm like, I can wait until Disco comes back.
Yeah, but with the nostalgia behind Picard, I do wonder if they could possibly bring out the more generalized fan base into this show.
I think it would be a way for a lot of people to come back to CBS All Access or come to CBS All Access for the first time. You have your super duper ass haters who will never come to CBS All Access, and that's fine. We don't want you guys.
Of course. Their loss.
Their loss. It's fine. But if you're someone who's just like, disco's not really my thing, and you didn't like foam at the mouth or like try to slap anybody on Twitter who said that they liked disco, then this could be the way for CBS to get those people.
Exactly. And I actually want to steal an idea from you that you brought up a long time ago regarding the disco short treks leading into season 2. It would be great if they maybe film, let's say if they film 4 short treks for Picard like they did for disco. 2 of them are free. Just massively put them out on the internet, let people watch them and let them decide, okay, I'm intrigued, I want to know more. Then put the other 2 on CBS All Access as a lead-in to the Picard series and then debut, get those people locked in to subscribe for, hey, even another month than they would have if they're just doing Picard. But give people an opportunity to get excited about the show. And I hate to put it this way, but the best way to do it is to do a little sample. You know, that's why this stuff works. You give people a little sample, they can try it for free and decide, hey, that's pretty good. I want more. Bring them in, reel them in.
Well, and I know several people who did that with season 2 of Disco, where they released the first episode of season 2 on YouTube. And
that's right, they did.
I sent it to a lot of people who didn't subscribe or bailed on season 1. And I said, I was like, hey, this episode, brother, is super good. You need to check it out. And more than one person told me, oh, this is what I was hoping Disco would be in season 1. And we need to do this. They need to do this. And I don't know why I said we, but it's totally something that I think
we were
they should
somehow involved, maybe.
Now, what would you like to see with a short trek for Picard, because I have some of my own ideas on what they should or shouldn't do for their lead up to season 1, because you could be much more liberal with what you do for the lead up to season 2. What do you think?
You know, my first instinct, knowing so little about this series, is to not do a short trek with Patrick Stewart. If you want to get other characters involved, because I have a feeling we're not going to get a cameo from Beverly or Troy or even Riker, because Jonathan Frakes is directing right now as we talk. I don't think we're going to see them on screen. But for a short trek, if maybe we could get almost like a documentary style interviews with these characters about what happened, being a little vague, but at the same time giving us a little puzzle pieces of what might have happened, having them talk about it, and then we can fanboy and scream and talk about, oh my God, it's Crusher, rah! And that would be the way to get them on board. Now you're cringing. Our listeners can't see us cringing, but I do. So tell me how much you hate this.
No, I love that idea. I freaking love that idea. But the reason why I'm cringing, the reason why I'm cringing is because it is almost the exact style and plot of Star Trek Axanar.
Oh God, you're right. Oh no. Okay, I take back everything. I don't know. No, that is no.
So there's no way.
I gotta go barf.
There's no way they would be able to do that. From an optic perspective.
Oh no. I didn't even think about it. I have brain bleached Axanar so hard from my brain.
Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
But yes, it's they wouldn't be able to do that. But okay, so like I was thinking the same exact thing as you though. Like as a lead up to season 1, don't show Jean-Luc, like don't show Patrick Stewart, because I think in the short treks, very few people, except for like Saru and Tilly, were shown in the short treks, and so you probably want to keep it vague as possible, but like do like maybe a few cameos or like, because I'm like you, where I'm just like, oh, if we do get a cameo, it might not be until later in the season or maybe even later in the show, and then it'll probably just be a taste. And like, you know, we once talked about how I really wanted Riker and the Titan or wherever he is now to kind of swoop in and save the day like he did in All Good Things. But regardless,
sure,
I think it would have to be like maybe just a little bit of history, maybe not documentary style, but a little bit of history of what has happened post Nemesis between Nemesis and Picard. Like get everybody caught up so that they don't have to do so much exposition in the first episode.
Idea. Yeah, bring them together, have them meet at somebody's house, and maybe just to have them talk about what has happened and what is about to happen.
I was thinking even more literal than that, like give little snippets, like where it's like a 4-part history lesson of like, this is what happened before this battle, but no one knows what the battle is. This is what happened after the battle, but nobody knows what the battle is. This is, this is like show a short trek of a caretaker of the vineyard, where it's just like, oh, well, Jean-Luc's coming back and he says he's going to stay for a while. And so it's just a short trek of them getting the vineyard ready for him, like that kind of thing.
Oh, that could be interesting. Yeah, who was running the vineyard until Jean-Luc took over?
That kind of thing.
That would be a great thing to find out. Yeah, maybe it was Robert's wife. We don't know if she died in the fire.
I don't think she did.
He says Robert and Renee.
Yeah, he doesn't say the family. He doesn't say all three of them. He just says Robert and Renee.
So maybe she was doing it, but now with Jean-Luc coming back, she's going to take a break, or she's off to retire. She's done. Who knows?
Yeah. It's really fascinating, and like that's the thing, is that with short treks you can get as non-explodey as you want to be.
Yeah, that's kind of what I really like about this format, just generally speaking, is it doesn't have to be this massive explosive thing. It can just be this nice, subtle little story, a little vignette. It doesn't even necessarily have to have this really coherent beginning, middle, and end. It reaches some sort of inevitable conclusion, but it's a snippet, and you know it because you have 15 minutes.
Right. And the beauty of it, I think the beauty of this show, that I agree with you, that I think Picard is not going to be as explodey, or at least I'm hoping. It's not going to be as stylized. It's not going to be as, I don't know, in your face and upside down camera angles and,
No
circular.
epilepsy warnings or anything like that.
Nothing like that. Like no Michael Bay-esque circling around the conference table, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think this one, we could be wrong, but I feel like this one we're gonna get those dramatic speeches that we didn't get in Disco here.
Oh gosh, I hope so. I think to really pay the massive tribute to TNG as they could and should, and it does strike me that they are really handling the franchise with as much respect to what has come before as anybody possibly can. You got to give them credit for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be Talkie Trek.
Yes.
And I am fully on board for it, and this is the appropriate star and setting to do it.
So what do you think about season 2, like the lead up to season 2 of Picard? I know it's impossible to talk about.
Yeah, we have no idea what's happening in season 1.
But I feel like they can be much more liberal with it, where they can spoil a whole lot more. They can, like, after having a season's worth of content, you might be able to get Jean-Luc in a short trek. I know that they didn't get Michael in a short trek for Discovery. They kind of shot in, like, you didn't get Pike in a short trek or anything like that. But that is something that could happen where, like if we just have them talk about the event or the Armada or something like that in season 1, maybe with the buildup of season 2, we can actually see some of that.
Maybe so.
That kind of thing. I think you could fill in the gaps even more, or maybe that's a thing. Like maybe it's like we go with your history lesson type deal, where maybe with this is gonna sound stupid, but like stay with me here.
Yeah.
So what if there was a little bit more of a sideshow with short treks instead of little vignettes or little scenelets that don't connect with each other but connect with the show overall? What if these parts were of its own continuity outside of Star Trek Picard, where maybe it's the backstory of one particular character that we see in Picard, but we don't get any of his or her backstory. But in these 4 episodes every summer, or whatever, before each season, like we get to see way more with them. Or maybe it's maybe it's a helmsman or a member of the bridge crew who we only get to see have 2 words per episode, if that.
The Lieutenant J, who actually does get a line though.
Yeah, something like that, like a Lieutenant J, but of the Picard show. But in short treks, this person we get all of their backstory, and we get to see what they do. And
oh wow! And then we could see how that connects to the show at large, and that is a brilliant idea, because then that makes the short trek its own separate thing, but necessary viewing.
I wouldn't say necessary viewing. I would say it duly enhances what's going on with the screen. Like it's
Okay.
not, I wouldn't want to put anything where you're just like, oh, I gotta see the short trek, otherwise this episode's not going to make sense. Because Discovery did that a little bit, but of course they showed you like a recap within the episode.
Yeah.
But I feel like with this one, it's not mandatory viewing. It just gives a richer backstory to a character. And I know that some people would complain that are just like, oh, well, if you have this great character, then do it in the show. Like, if you don't have faith in the character, then don't put it there. Clearly, they just want this digital thing to fail.
Yeah.
But regardless.
Obviously, that's how we feel about that. But no, I love that idea. Totally digging on that.
So what about Disco? What would you like to see in a short trek of a lead up to season 3 of Disco?
Man, and I really do hope that they do more short treks for Disco. I think it's a great format. It's a great way to build up excitement for the season. And now that Disco is in the future, not necessarily knowing at all how they're, like, what they're going to face once they are in the future and all of that, I almost want to see a short trek where, like, it's been a couple of days and they're trying to recuperate and get their headspace and figure out what the heck is going on. And then at the very end of the short trek, though, I mean, it's just sort of to bring us up to speed, generally, this short trek. Mm-hmm. And then Michael realizes, oh, I got to go give the signal so that Spock knows we're okay. And that's why it took so many days for them to figure it out, with time being so twisted. Maybe it was 2 days for her, but for them it was 100 something.
I think with that one, I think they'll be wary of doing that, of showing the crew of showing actually Discovery in that timeline, because you want that big reveal to be in the first episode. You want those people
you're right.
in the future.
Yeah.
Like I obviously I don't know, but my guess is the first episode is going to be right when they get there.
That's my thought too.
But hell,
Yeah.
I could be wrong where they get there. Like the first episode is like, okay, we've been here for a year and this is what's happened. You know, like I could easily see something like that happening.
Maybe, but then that would necessitate a short trek, 15 minutes of what happened as soon as they jumped.
Now, I know we're going to get some animated short treks, but just in case they want to throw in some disco in there, one thing that I would like to see is a few short treks of like one dealing with the last battle from a different perspective on the Enterprise, like a lower decks kind of deal with what's going on the Enterprise during the battle from somebody else's perspective. I think that would be neat. And then I would love to see another one with the temporal agents where they kind of discuss what's going on. They know what's going on. And like someone says, why aren't we doing anything about it? And they say for X, Y, and Z.
And also, where the hell is Captain Braxton in all of this?
Yeah, no, totally. I would love to see like a Braxton before he got, arrested.
Wouldn't that be awesome to have Captain Braxton talking about these events and like why they do or do not interfere?
Yeah, or you get the guy who was in Enterprise, whatever his name is. I can't remember, the guy in the black suit. And
are you talking about Future Guy?
Is it Future Guy? Not
that's
the,
what everybody calls him.
Not the hazy. The guy who pretended to be a crew member on Enterprise.
Okay, it's been a little while since I've watched Enterprise.
Is it Daniels? I think it's Daniels.
Daniels. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. I'd love to see Braxton and Daniels or something like that, like have a conversation about disco. How great would that be?
Oh, that would be super cool. Can we make that happen, please?
I think, yeah, out of everything we just talked about, I'm like, yeah, let's make that the first short trick we see.
Right? Yeah, that is the one. That is the top. Now, let's maybe retcon a little bit. If we could go back and do like a Voyager short trek or a DS9 short trek, a TNG, or even TOS short trek, what sorts of things do you think, if this format had been a thing back then, what do you think they would have done with it?
Oh, man, that's interesting.
Because really, the prelude to short treks was like little webisodes. Shows like The Office did this, where they did little side things and they may or may not have their own continuity, but they were this little thing that some, like the diehard fans were into it, but if you were a regular fan, whatever, you could skip it.
Yeah, Battlestar Galactica did that. And
right.
I think I mentioned that before. I think that was the first time I really remember people doing that. Mm-hmm. But like The Office and Battlestar Galactica are definitely the first ones I remember. Man, what would
that look like?
Man, that's a good question.
And for the record, SETI Alpha 3 did come up with some short trek ideas for our first 5 series. So, I don't know. I'm hoping we won't step on their toes.
Well, everyone needs to go to thenerdparty.com and check out SETI Alpha 3, especially that episode. I mean, they do fantastic work, and you guys should check it out and subscribe, as well as all of our other shows, because we got Star Trek shows, we got Star Wars shows, we got Harry Potter shows, Babylon 5 show, which you're very familiar with, and so many different types of shows that everyone should check out. But I think, this is going to be so predictable once I say it out loud that you're going to laugh, and longtime listeners will be like, freaking course. I think what Voyager would have done and what would have been cool, and definitely what Jerry Taylor would have done, is your short treks would have been Pathways.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
The novel Pathways.
I did roll my eyes just a little bit, and yet I'm totally on board with this.
So you get you would see B'Elanna's backstory about how she joined the Maquis. You would get Chakotay's backstory about how he joined the Maquis. You would get maybe a little bit of Tom's, how he got into this predicament. You would see Harry as a kid, practicing the clarinet, or some crap like that, or how he met Libby, because that's actually what's in Pathways. Right. That kind of thing. I think that would have been really great, because not too terribly much was contradicted in the show of Pathways, and so you could totally mine that in order to do short treks. And
Oh, most definitely. Plus, that gives us more backstory, and for those who don't like reading, then they get the visual version, and then we're all good. Totally could see that happening, especially between, like, in that era, like, between seasons 2 and 3, and then maybe after 3 even.
Oh, very much so. I think with Deep Space Nine, you wouldn't get too much backstory, but maybe you would get like an alternate life of Dax. Maybe
that would be
you'd see a
cool.
little Curzon or even somebody we don't really know. I could totally see a short trek with Quark where he's doing something devious, and it's just that's the
Right.
15 minutes is just him doing something devious and not getting caught or getting caught. It's like a cat
Oh,
and
no,
mouse game.
Odo's on it.
Yeah, it's a cat and mouse game between him and Odo.
Perfect.
Just something separate, like stuff like that. I could see Deep Space Nine doing that way more than just doing backstory.
I also see DS9 possibly tackling missing scenes, little addendums.
Yeah, I could see that. Like where things that were referenced off camera, or like things that were like, oh, this and this happened, and you're just like, oh God, the destruction of the whatever, like this is really heavy. But we see the destruction of the USS whatever,
I want to see that ship, the USS whatever.
They got lazy.
Or what would be the number?
It would just be question marks. NCC just question mark.
We don't even know. We don't even care. Whatever. Oh my God,
Like,
that's
do you really
hilarious.
expect us to come up with so many different proper nouns? My God.
There's only so many ships with so many names. Oh my God, I give up. That would maybe also make a good short trek. It's just like not necessarily the people out in space, the people who are on the ground doing important work for Starfleet, but never getting any credit for it.
I would love to see an animated short trek, like an Office style type deal, where they're arguing over what the name of this class of ship should be.
That would be amazing.
And it's just like, we should call it the Galaxy. No, screw that. Like, we're in the Galaxy. It needs to have more flavor, like the USS Papa Moose, or something like that.
Right? Like, okay, we've done historical and all of these different aspects. We're going through cool words like discovery and stuff. Okay, what do we do now?
And maybe you have that one guy who's just like everything. If you had an X to everything, like back in the 90s when everything was extreme, they're just like, yeah,
God.
it needs to have some edge. The USS Extreme, like stuff like that.
And then he takes a sip of his Mountain Dew, opens a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos.
Yeah, exactly. He crushes his Red Bull on his head, like it's that guy. And then there's
Oh
this
my
one
God,
person,
yes.
this one alien who kind of pops in and says like, hey, guys, I don't know, maybe we should look outside of Earth for some of these names.
Shocker. Whoa. And then they just stare him down like, how dare you?
How dare you?
I want this. I want to see this.
Yeah,
I could watch 15 minutes of this. Easy.
I would pay money to see that. Easy.
Yep, CBS, you can take my money. You already do, but that's not the point.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you think? Like, is there any? Like, I'm kind of blanking on Enterprise and TOS short treks.
One really stupid, nonsensical idea that just popped in my brain for Enterprise would be in the exercise room on the treadmill. You have various people coming in to do their workouts, talking about something that's going on, but we never see what is going on. We only get the context of what is happening through the lens of people talking about it in that room.
I get that. Yeah, I think that's interesting.
I don't know what's going on. It's some dramatic battle or whatever, who cares? But it's all about how they're handling it, how hard they're working out. I mean, you could really get like into people's heads through their body language and all of that. I think that would be a cool little study for 15 minutes.
One thing, this is one of those nitpicks where I'm just like, I understand that the workout room was just a redressed cargo bay. Star Trek does that all the time. But if you think about the wasted space in that weight room, with this, like, do you really need 2 decks to work out in, where there's nothing you can do on the ceiling? Like, there's no actual second floor, and like it's so spread out, and you're just like, you're basically in a submarine. Like,
Right?
What are you doing?
Yeah, they could have and should have done better there. I totally agree. And maybe that even comes up somewhere in the short trek. Like, why aren't we using that space up there? Hello? We could be using that for something.
It's definitely a holdover from the Next Generation luxury cruise, mentality, where they said they're like, oh yeah, no, in Enterprise it's much more submarine. Like, not really. But I see what you're going for.
Yeah, they tried.
But one thing, actually, this just popped in my head because one thing we didn't talk about was TNG short treks.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I'd love to see is Riker on vacation.
Oh,
and
boy.
He's on Risa.
Of course he is.
We see him strike out like 10 times in a row.
Has he lost it?
And that's the thing he's asking himself. He's like, I'm much more seasoned now. Is that the problem? And he strikes out 10 times, but on that 11th time, he gets that phone number.
Oh boy. 11th is the charm, huh?
I would love to see his perseverance.
And Jonathan Frakes would just eat that up so much.
He would love
Be
that
like,
stuff.
yeah, boy, still got it. That's how it would end. I have an idea for a TNG short trek. Maybe centering around Loxana Troy. And it's got to have something to do with her well-meaning, but sometimes just completely overbearing mentality of basically just driving Troy and Picard to complete distraction. But maybe at the end of the day, she has a point of something. Now, I have nothing specific in mind, but it would be kind of cool just if back in that day we could have had a little more of Bajel Barrett, just letting her do her thing, because she's so good at that role.
I think one thing that pops in my head is if they were using Luxana that way, it would be everyone trying to avoid her.
Yes.
Because we got a little bit in that episode where Picard was able to hightail it out of there, but Riker got caught. He's like, oh, okay. I would love to see a little bit more of that where maybe they have like some sort of secret alert.
Purple alert.
Yeah, something like that where they're just like, everybody on your toes.
Right. Maybe
that
they're trying to throw responsibility for handling Loxana and whatever some grandiose thing she's got to do, like a hot potato. Nobody wants to deal with this. Nobody wants to handle her, but here we go. So how are they displacing their responsibility onto other people, and who ends up having to deal with it?
I think one thing, even though this was a little late in the show because we got this in season 7, but everybody loved Lower Decks so much and everyone was screaming for a Lower Decks show that totally wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. I think you could see that on TNG short treks a whole lot more about like what the Lower Deck people are doing during any given situation, like what the Lower Deck people were doing during Best of Both Worlds, or when they got transported to the Delta Quadrant, or when they were like so far outside of their own galaxy, they're just like, what the hell's going on? I kind of want a moment like we got in Voyager with Neelix when he's just like, what are they doing? like they have such a great ship. This is so nice. Why don't we just blow it up? Like I would love to see some ensign be like, I didn't sign up for this.
Just have like a mutual cathartic ranting session in the mess hall. Oh,
Yeah,
that could
this
be
is
kind of
insane.
fun.
Yeah,
I
I
like
would love to
that.
see
I
that.
like that. Yeah, that would be really cool. Another thought I had. What about a Guinan short trek on TNG?
I was wondering about that.
Kind of the same context. Like through Enterprise, like some event is going on. People are coming up to the bar. Guinan's asking, hey, how are you? How's it going? And then we get little details of what's happening through those conversations.
I would love to see that, but show how active Guinan's day actually is.
Yes.
Where I would love to see a Data's day, but a Guinan's day, where you see what she does when she wakes up, when she gets to the bar, and then when she goes home. But because when everyone sees Guinan, she's so relaxed and she's so helpful, and it just seems like she kind of moves at a slower pace than everybody else in a good way. And so I would love to see this short trek contradict all that, where she has to fix like 15 different people's problems, and then she gets a little afraid at the end where she's just like, I don't know, kid, just write her the letter or don't. I don't know.
It's got to be Wesley. She's doing that too.
Yeah, right. And then like she has to make sure that everything's stocked, that she does this, and then she still has time at home for Picard or something like that, where like Picard stops by her personal quarters, and she's like, oh, okay, sure, why not?
And then maybe the very end of the day, like you can see that the day really has worn on her. She's exhausted. Mm-hmm. She crawls into bed or draws a warm bath. And then maybe the clincher at the very end is somebody is on the comm link or what have you. Hey, Guinan, you got a second?
Yeah.
And a heavy sigh, fade to black.
And we see Troy just in the corner, like eating chocolate, like because she's not doing her job.
That's mean.
I know.
But maybe that would be the perfect opportunity to acknowledge that whole Troy and Guinan thing. Like, why am I doing your job?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody knows I love Troy, but it's a question. It's a question that needs to be asked.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love it, and it's still like just the meanest jab, and yet, oh my gosh, if we actually got that on screen, we'd be howling.
amazing.
We would.
All right, folks. Well, I think that's a good place to end it on a little on a chocolate ice cream. So this has been a lot of fun. We went through a lot of different ideas, and if you have any ideas for short treks, which I'm sure that you do, because as you were listening to this, I'm sure that you're just like, that wouldn't work. Oh, that's a great idea, or I can think of something better. Please let us know what you think would be better by going to thenerdparty.com/contact. Select Punch It from the drop-down menu, fill out the form. It'll send us an email. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. You can find me personally on Twitter at @TheInsaneRobin.
You can find me at Oh the Profanity.
And if you haven't already, please make sure to leave us a review on iTunes. And if you give us a 5-star review, we'll mention you on the show. You can give us any type of review that you want, but 5-star gets you a mention. And please let those emails roll in, let those reviews roll in, and make sure to tune in for our next episode because it is going to be a humdinger. And you'll find out next week what it is, and whatever it is, we're going to punch it.
Ready for warp, sir. Let's punch it.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.